This is a Sunpak Auto 622 hammerhead flash unit fitted with the zoom head and the exchangeable battery cartridge. It was being sold in the 1990s and early 2000s when film cameras were still the majority, but it can be used on digital cameras. It's one of the most powerful camera mounted units ever made, but because of that I'm afraid it's also quite large and heavy. It was aimed at professionals, of course, for use in events, sport, stage and press photography, although at reduced power it's fine for portraiture and even close up. In its time it was the main and, as far as I know, the only rival to the largest Mecha Blitz hammerheads. It's very much a modular system with a large range of accessories. There are two versions, and the more powerful one had a guide number of 60 metres with its standard spread angle and up to 82 metres with its zoom head. This one is the slightly less powerful version with a guide number of 50 metres with the standard head, but the two of them are identical in operation, almost in appearance. The way to tell the difference is the name on the front. This one says Sunpak Auto Pro System, and the more powerful one with the guide number of 60 just says the word Sunpak. Don't be fooled by some of the optimistic guide numbers quoted for modern flash units, because they're usually quoted in their telephoto mode, not for the standard spread angle. It has a low trigger voltage of under 10, so it's safe on most modern digital cameras. Some of the old film era flash units had high trigger voltages that could damage a modern camera, but by the time this 622 was designed, even film cameras contained more and more electronics, and that was taken into account. It's attached here to a Pentax film camera, LX film camera, and it attaches the camera in the usual way for hammerheads, which is a screw into the thumb screw into the tripod socket under the camera. This bracket can be separated from the unit itself by loosening this thumb screw and pressing it in, and this is convenient for changing batteries in the unit or the film in the camera, or holding the flash unit up separately like a torch if you like to take pictures that way. When you put it on, you must make sure you tighten this thumb screw in case it drops out accidentally. This unit's head can tilt up to the vertical and be rotated through 360 degrees. That means you can use bounced flash off a ceiling or off a side wall, or off a ceiling if you're taking a picture in portrait format, like most better flash units. There are two types of sync lead. This is the more simple type, which goes to the PC socket on a camera with this plug, and it fits into this socket on the side of the unit with this three-prong plug. With that you'll get the manual and the older style auto modes. The alternative is this multi-core sync lead, which has a camera specific module on the far end. In this case it's a Pentax PT1D module, and this plugs into the multi-pin socket on the underside. And these camera specific modules can be changed to suit the camera. And this, for example, a CA1D is for a Canon camera. These are not really designed to be changed frequently. They're really meant as a fit and forget arrangement. And the same modules are used on some of Sunpak's top end hot shoe units, such as this 36DX. In this case it's a STD1D, which is a standard module which has only the single pin in, so it has no dedication, carries no dedication features, but the camera specific ones have multiple contacts to suit the particular camera brand. When it's used with these modules, the modules themselves have a photocell on the front, and that actually takes over from the photocell on the front of the unit, so that you can use the unit held away from the camera if you would like to shoot that way. These camera specific modules also give you the bells and whistles with the camera, such as a flash ready indication, the viewfinder of the camera, or the flash confirmation signal, which are nice to have, but they're not essential. I find using this unit without the modules is a perfectly satisfactory way of using it, and the present day TTL technology isn't, with digital cameras, is not that great anyway, to be honest. It's not as good as the old film TTL technology. The unit is powered by 4 size C batteries in this pod. The pod is actually detachable. I'm pressing in this button here and wriggling it out. This made it possible to have spare pods, such as if you're covering an event. There was a version of this pod with a built-in rechargeable battery, which is distinguished by actually having a black trim here rather than this silver grey one. But I'd avoid the rechargeable pod these days because the battery's probably tired, whereas you'll always be able to get these size C batteries in future. As an alternative to this pod with batteries, Sunpak did they did 2 different external power supplies, portable ones to clip on your belt or over a shoulder, which plugged into this socket here, and they were high voltage, so it would recharge very quickly. Companies like Quantum, independent companies, also did alternative versions of those. Again, I don't think any of those are any use today because they use batteries which are no longer obtainable, and if they're in the rechargeable case, again, they're probably tired by now. There's also a mains power supply arrangement that plugged into here and used a transformer from the domestic mains. Be aware that that transformer is not interchangeable with the one that Sunpak used for their hot shoe units. The adapter here actually had a small low voltage battery in it as well to power the electronics inside this unit. Those things are quite rare in the used market these days. On the back there's an on-off switch at the bottom, and when it's charged this ready test light will come on. Fairly unusually for a flash unit, there's a second indicating light marked full, which comes on when it's actually achieved full charge. The ready means it's possible to take a picture, but the full charge is actually slightly later, which gives you full power. The ready test light is also a button to fire at the flash without a photo being taken, and I'll do that now. Although at the moment it's in manual mode, so it won't tell you whether the photo is actually any good or not. It only tells you that the flash is working. At the top there is a slider to set the film or sensor ISO sensitivity, set here to 400 at the moment. There's also a smaller number, 27, which is the old DIN system of measuring sensitivity. That can be ignored these days. Numbers are rather small, which is a criticism of this unit. Just above the on-off switch is a three-way slider to choose between A for auto, M for manual, and the blue circle is for the TTL or through the lens mode if you have the appropriate module for the camera that supports that. I'll deal with the manual mode first. In manual it fires at full power or some fraction of it chosen by this slider here, and the fraction is shown in this little window here. At full power it says 1/1, which is unity. It can be reduced all the way down to 1/128th in a series of halvings. Sunpak call that fraction the power ratio. Each step change of this is equivalent to one stop change in lens aperture or shutter speed. And the guide number at 128th power is about 1 meter, which is suitable for close-up work. To get the correct exposure in manual mode, the flash formula needs to be evaluated to find a suitable combination of the power ratio, subject distance, lens aperture and the sensitivity. You won't normally need to work it out because on the back is this, what is effectively a slide rule calculator. On this unit there's more than one sequence in which you might do this, but I recommend, because it was designed for film, I first recommend setting the sensitivity value with the top slider and then choosing the lens aperture that you want using the middle slider. For example, if I'm using a sensitivity of ISO 400, I can then choose a lens aperture of f8, highlighted in green there, and then set the subject distance of the bottom slider to 3 meters, shown here. The little window informs me that it's a power ratio of 1/16, but that doesn't matter, I can ignore that. And now I can go ahead and take a photo after setting the camera lens to that lens aperture of f8, if I've not already done so. And the 1/16th of its power, this unit is obviously well within its stride and going with a guide number of 12 meters, which is about the same as a typical pop-up flash. So far I've had the zoom head set to S, which is its standard setting, but if I change it to T for telephoto, notice the distance scale has changed to blue and the number itself has changed from 3 meters to 4.4 meters because the beam has narrowed and the guide number has increased. The telephoto setting corresponds to a lens of 135mm lens on a full frame camera. Similarly, if I change the head zoom setting to wide angle, the distance scale is now orange to remind you of that, and has changed to 2.2 meters because the beam angle has widened, so the light intensity anywhere in the subject is less. There's no harm in the flash beam angle being wider than the camera lens needs, except for some loss in the maximum range, but it should not be narrow because that would lead to a brighter area in the centre of the photo with a darker surround. Notice that the maximum ISO number you can set with this thing is 1600, which is about the highest film speed you could get in film days, but of course modern digital cameras can have much higher sensitivities than that. So if you wanted to use a higher sensitivity you'd have to work out the flash formula manually, but with flash photography you don't really need very high sensitivities because the flash covers that. Now for the auto mode, you obviously need to set this slider to A. And in auto mode the output of the flash is controlled by this photocell on the front of the unit, or buy the photocell on the camera hot shoe with the special sync lead. You need to set the ISO value in the top window again, and you should now choose an f-stop using the middle slider to anything that in the permitted range, which is anywhere with the green light is on, which is actually a choice of 7 different f-stops, which is a very good feature of this unit. For example, with ISO 400 you can have a f-stop anywhere from f45 all the way up to f5.6. Again, in the auto mode you can test the flash without taking a photo with this test button, and in this case the auto OK light will come on if the lighting is adequate, and I'll do that. The green light comes on. It's not easy to see. Notice that when you tilt or swivel the head, the illumination on the distance scale goes out because the flash formula no longer applies. It's still recommending you to use a particular f-stop with it tilted or swiveled. Similarly, if you fit one of the alternative heads like this diffusion head, I won't do it now, but this auxiliary guide number light comes on to warn you that the flash formula, as normally calculated by this slide rule arrangement, no longer applies, and that will again extinguish this distance scale illumination. TTL mode is set by putting this mode switch to the blue circle. The illuminating lights go out because the output of the unit is now controlled by the camera, so control panel becomes somewhat redundant. But Sunpak don't say anything in their handbook about how to set these sliders in TTL mode, but I'd suggest that you set the power ratio to 1 as you would in the auto mode. I don't know if that makes a difference. The TTL mode is of course an automatic mode, but the term auto mode tends to be used for the older system, using, as I've just described, that using the unit's own photocell. The TTL mode only works with compatible cameras and also needs the appropriate module to be present. Compatible cameras of the film era tended to be from 1980 onwards, first in the more expensive SLRs like the Nikon F3 and the Pentax LX, and then extended to mid-range models. A few early digital cameras were also compatible, but the modern digital cameras use totally different TTL systems which are not compatible. It was available with a number of different interchangeable heads. This is the soft light head which completely replaces this one, and there was a ring light head. Obviously that went on the camera lens, and this replaced the head here. There was a bare bulb one and a wide angle one and a standard focal length one, which are really covered by this zoom head anyway. Pretty stiff to get these heads on and off. You have to push up a little slider here while getting the sliding the thing off upwards. It's quite a struggle really, so I won't do it again now. This 622 was one of the last hammerhead units sold by Sunpak, along with the smaller 555 unit, and it would have cost about £150 in the UK, plus another 50 for the module back in around the year 2000. Well, I paid £25 for this one on eBay, which is a real bargain. You can see them for going for over £100, and this one was in mint condition. But if you buy one, make sure that it comes with the bracket, and there's an alternative medium format bracket which is actually goes quite well with modern digital cameras, and that you get at least the simple sync lead, and even better the multi-core sync lead with the dedicated module, because the thing is useless without those, and people sell those separately for exorbitant prices, sometimes more than the price of a complete outfit. The other accessories like the external main supply and alternative heads are quite difficult to find today and tend to be expensive if you do. Well, I hope that was useful. It's fairly long because this is quite a complex unit to describe with lots of features. So if you've got this far, thank you for watching.